Welcome to the Movement of Art podcast. And I'm your host, Yonat Vaks. And in this podcast, we're going to do deep dives every time with different artists or thinkers or builders in the space and talk about art and culture and Bitcoin and how they connect, what ideas and thoughts we have around them. And every time we're just going to talk about different topics with different people in the space. So, before we start with our amazing guest today, I just want to shout out to the Bitcoin Art Magazine. So, this podcast is in collaboration with the Bitcoin Art Magazine. If you still haven't seen it or purchased a copy, please go to the Bitcoin Art Magazine site. The magazine is incredible. It has really the the well, I forgot the word now. Anyway, the magazine has all of your favorite Bitcoin artists. It's super beautifully printed. And I am positive that it's going to become a super high valued collectible. So go check it out. And this podcast is also going to be part of the Bitcoin Art broadcast, along with Asanoha's Bitcoin Art podcast that is deep dives with different artists in the space. So I am super excited because today is the very first episode, and we're going to talk about Bitcoin culture. Is it a thing? What is it? Who makes the rules? Are there any rules? And just um, see if it's a thing before we start talking about different aspects of it. So we have today Asanoha from the Bitcoin Art Magazine, who is also an artist. There he is. He's going to tell us about his projects, about his art. And we have Sam from Scarce.city, who is also an artist. Um, and yeah, so let's start. Asanoha, you want to start? Tell us who you are. What's the
Sure.
Bitcoin Art Magazine? How did you get here?
Thank you, Yonat. My name is Asanoha, and I'm a Bitcoin artist. I've been making Bitcoin art for around 4 years now, maybe a little bit more. And this last year, I started the Bitcoin Art Magazine, which, as far as I know, is the world's first Bitcoin art magazine. Hasn't been contested. The claim hasn't been contested yet. Or at least not officially. I have not. Nobody has produced anything similar to what we're doing, and it's a dedicated periodical publication focusing on and showcasing and featuring Bitcoin artists around the world. So Yonat is featured in the magazine, and we are organizing an upcoming gallery at the Space in Denver with Scarce.city right now. So shout out Sam and Scarce.city and their whole crew. And yeah, just happy to be here. And I'm excited for this to be a platform to help share, represent, and amplify the voice of Bitcoin artists the world over.
Okay, cool. And Sam, tell us about
Thank
yourself
you
and
so much for
Scarcity.
having me on here. I am Sam. I'm the general manager of Scarce City. Going into my third year there. You mentioned I was an artist before. Kind of that's how I found my way through Scarce was playing around with some counterparty projects and stuff through doing some Bitcoin art of my own, some little disc projects against major NFT space at the time, and have then found my group and my friends, and yeah, so I've represented both of these artists in their art and auctions and stuff for a few years now. Work really closely with both of them, as well as a lot of the artists in the space and collectors, just bridging that gap and finding their, you know, whether it be collectibles or art for their spaces or homes or gifts or all sorts of stuff. It's just that personality of connecting that. artist personality with the collector personality and meshing it all together and what that means.
And how is that? That's interesting, like the artist personality and a collector personality?
It is very interesting.
Is there a thing? Is that a thing?
I mean, you
Well, I mean in general.
yeah. I mean, a little bit. You definitely, you obviously get collectors that fall in love with a specific artist story, and you'll see that over and over in bid tables, whether it be a Pepe Nardo piece or an Asanoha piece or Bitcoin trading cards collectors. Like, I guess one of the very first questions that you're asking in this is like, does Bitcoin culture exist? And yes, absolutely. We have our own languages and our own rituals. We go to conferences and we like seek out people that are like-minded, and collectors really, what I found in this space specifically is collectors love a proof of work story. They love why that art piece came about, what the story behind it is. They really want to connect with the artist, and the connection with the artist proves to be sometimes stronger than their actual connection to the piece. And so I do think that those personalities sometimes, and I think that the Bitcoin artists are so accessible that it allows that. Like, where else do you really, I'm sure, yes, people were like friends with Andy Warhol and things like that. But you can literally hop on a Telegram chat at any point right now and get a hold of these artists and talk to them about their vision and their ability to like want to collab. And it's become a accessible, tight knit community that's not really hard to break into though. Still, like we're very, uh, everybody's very accepting and wants to again collaborate or share techniques and stories and yeah, so I think that those personalities do come out as much as sometimes we don't claim that they do. I think that you can definitely tell different people and how they like fit together.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I was thinking a lot about this before, before this episode, and I was gonna maybe we'll go back to that later to do like a definition of what culture is because I love definitions and like researching things. But and this was like one of the things I thought of um to talk about later, but since we've started, it's like it's so interesting to think, is there like a Bitcoin culture that when you start getting into the space, you kind of learn it? Because most cultures, that's how they work, right? You kind of are born into culture and you start learning it. So here it's like, is it something you learn or is it something that you come with and just it kind of like connected people with like-minded values and ideas and just kind of like that they had them already, but we're just like connecting together around this. So, because I think that that thing that like accessibility, yeah, part of it is that it's still very small and hopefully it won't change when it grows. But there still is that like peer-to-peer nature, right? Just like in Bitcoin, it's still, the fact, I guess, in like the traditional art world, if sometimes you don't even know who the collector is, right? Because it goes through the third party of the gallery or the art dealer or whatever. And here, kind of like the peer-to-peer nature is also in interactions.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting the whole concept of a Bitcoin culture, and I think what you just said is a very valid part of it, and that is there's something unique that's happening here that I think has existed in similar, ways and different versions in the past and currently out there in the world, but there's something here that's really kind of extra special. And as far as Bitcoin culture in its entirety, I still have a little bit of mixed. I feel like it's still to be seen in some ways because there's the question of once Bitcoin reaches a level of hyper Bitcoinization and mainstream adoption, will there still be a culture? Can there be a culture around something, as decentralized and fungible as Bitcoin? And I don't know. I mean, personally, I think so. Other people claim not, like saying, is there a dollar culture? And,
Yeah.
so without arguing the semantics of what a makes a culture and so forth, I would say that definitively there is subcultures around Bitcoin, and there's pockets that have culture, and there is a conference culture, and there is an art culture, and there is internet culture, and so it would make sense that there is a Bitcoin culture. Is it completely is it totally definable? No, I don't think so. I think that it's amorphous in certain ways, and I think it probably changes between different groups and pockets working around Bitcoin, whether you're talking to developers or the artists like us here, or maybe, Wall Street financiers or
Mhm.
people organizing conferences. And then all of these kind of subcultures overlap, and you do have like an overarching Bitcoin culture. But then there's also people that I think don't engage in anything that maybe would be considered Bitcoin culture beyond just holding and investing in some Bitcoin. So it's a very interesting conversation topic.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, like, because I mean, I know people that have Bitcoin that aren't like that don't go to conferences, they're not on X, they're not on Nostr, they just like live their lives and they have Bitcoin and sometimes like I show them my art or just show them art in general or even say things like hodl and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? And because we're so in this, like we know it feels, I think, and maybe you're right, maybe it's the art culture or the conference culture because it is different than maybe, the more I don't know, finance side but there's words, there's phrases, there's things that, even 21 as a meme, as a number, as something people like talk about. I I'm pretty sure that people that aren't in like deep into that space maybe don't even think about it as a thing. So yeah, I looked at like if we go back to the definite, let me see if I can share my screen. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, so the definition of culture is a concept that encompasses the social behavior, institutions, and norms found in human societies, as well as the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, customs, capabilities, attitudes, and habits of the individuals in these groups. So so yeah, it's interesting. I wonder, like, I really connect to what you're saying about like subcultures that maybe, um, yeah, because there's like, I don't know if you look at even like subcultures, right? Like Bitcoin trading cards, that's like a culture, right? It's like um, it's also a group. It also has its habits, its words, its, the things that it goes around. So,
Maybe it's more a little bit about Bitcoiners are generally people that tend to seek out some kind of culture. Whether that is, again, they fall into one of these subcultures of, a conference goer who goes to all of them and like that's their, badge. Like they have all of the badges, hundreds of lanyards from all of the different conferences that they've attended. You've got artists, you've got devs, you've got, and then of course we just fracture that, into so many different things. Everybody like kind of, gets their own personal ideas, like just like any human would. But I do think that like there is a founding subculture of people that probably go against the grain, have always gone against like mainstream on any mainstream system. People that are a little bit, don't tell me what to do. People that are highly creative, people that want privacy and want freedom and want the ability to do those things without other people telling them how that should be created. And so, and naturally, when you have a bunch of those people, they are going to form groups and, you know, sometimes, yep, there's definitely like crossover, and then sometimes those subcultures, then we have culture wars, and then they're all fighting against each other on, what does that actually look like? And you can do this, and you can't do that, and uh, obviously we're all still humans, but I think you do have a group of people that on if you were to like dumb it down to like 3 things, they would actually probably all be the same things that people are searching for: freedom, privacy, that self-sovereignty, to just live your life.
Without the tyrannical state forcing you to use their infinitely printable money.
Exactly.
I, something interesting that I just kind of thought about with this is it's almost maybe like there's clearly very strong parts of Bitcoin that are, undeniably a strong form of culture. And at the same time, you can interact with Bitcoin without engaging in any of what one would call Bitcoin culture. And that's kind of amazing and beautiful and a testament to the power of Bitcoin in that it has a strong culture and yet you can still participate and enjoy the benefits of freedom money without engaging in the culture at all, which I think is unique in some ways as far as things go in this world. So that's kind of cool to think about, and it truly is a testament to Bitcoin as whatever, kind of whatever you want it to be or whatever any of us wants it to be. So
Yeah, I think it's also it's like one of the fundamental things about it, and um, sometimes that's forgotten in, if we talk about like the core, um, Bitcoin cultures or values that maybe a lot of people share or talk about. And sound like what you're saying before, that sometimes it gets to what you should or shouldn't do, and that is it's kind of sometimes it's on on one side kind of like the core of the culture, because people say, oh, this is how a Bitcoiner should be, and this is how a Bitcoiner shouldn't be. But on the other hand, it's like, well, the whole point is like you should or shouldn't be anything, right? You can it's open to everyone. So that's it's like an interesting thing of like what's the role of of Bitcoin culture in all of this? Because I think it's super important because it's a way, especially with art and like the visual parts or the books or the podcasts, it's like a way to talk about what this is apart from um, apart from money, or what the ideas of it, what the ideas of freedom or what it enables, right? Because a lot of people don't understand it, and if you you know we we get caught in our little echo chamber of people that get it and people that understand, people that go to conferences, but it's just a really really small percentage of the world in the end, of if we want everyone to be using this, if we want everyone to know what this is, right? And I think this the culture that has grown around it, if it's art, if it's trading cards, if it's pub key, if it's pop-ups, if it's meetups, it's like a way to talk about it and to get people to know about it as well, on a different way, in a way that most people, if you explain how it works, they don't care. Especially I think in like, I think in like third world countries, or countries where inflation is really big, or you don't have access to be able to save your money, or people get it right away. I find it's easier to explain it to someone from a country like that than from a country where you have credit cards and banks and other solutions, and it's like, so, okay, why? Like, it's just an investment that goes up and down, like, that's all they hear about it. And with I think with what we're calling culture, at least how I see it, it's like a way to talk about the other things as well, the why.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said as well to on the even on the in the developmental coding side of things, that there has been, in many ways, the reason Bitcoin hasn't been compromised in entirety so far and has made it this far is because of the cultural choices and decisions of the people who run Bitcoin nodes and the miners as well, the people who participate in the network. And you can see a great example of a more high time preference fiat based culture in something like Ethereum or Solana. And that why would someone create something like that if not ultimately from a cultural influence, you know, and that there is something important about all of these ideas and beliefs in freedom and sovereignty and in low time preference and in permissionlessness and in decentralization. And because it's at the end of the day, what version of the code do you choose to run, or what, you know, blockchain network do you choose to participate with? And I think those decisions could be attributed to cultural influence, right? Which ties back into what you're saying is, or said earlier about people finding Bitcoin. I think both of you have said it, you know, finding Bitcoin and you kind of find a community of people who share the same values and so forth. So as
I
much as
find it
go on.
I find it interesting, not that you say that you find it easier to, like, explain it to people in different cultures and different, walks of life than just maybe a typical American using it as, like, a financial system, but, that's kind of how, a lot of my backstory, like, I am very thankful for Clubhouse days of Bitcoin, and being able to just sit and hear all of these different stories from people in Nigeria and people in Tonga and like all of these different places that the Bitcoin is freedom tech that enables them to take care of their families and break out of systems. I often, if I like, I find myself, especially I'm a mom of five, I'm at play groups and play dates and stuff all the time, and people always asking like, what do you do? And you kind of get into that weird, like awkward, okay, like how much of this am I going to explain and all that. And one of the pieces I go back to quite a bit is crypto graffiti's borderless and like the rotating like seed words on a border that enables people to just have 12 to 24 words and be able to be anywhere. And that is, that is one art piece that other people who may not understand kind of get it very quick. And it's like the video is great, the story is great, and when you talk about like art and culture being that way to like orange pill people, another word that we all say, but they're like, what do you mean about orange pill people? But a lot of us are just evangelists and trying to expand our group and expand those like free thinkers that we find outside in other systems and be like, oh, you should meet my other friends. So being able to, yeah, use art in a way to like explain systems that people just may not get because they just have never had to experience that ever. And all that they do see is, maybe Reddit, maybe crypto Twitter, maybe just like a bunch of people talking and screeching and like yelling at each other that they don't get. Art pieces and artists really provide a different perspective on that, and I think that that's a very strong way for a lot of people to kind of get what we're doing.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think yeah, I'm just trying to think of all kinds of pieces that tell, I mean, even like pieces like the Silk Road that a lot of artists have done. I think for most people, like the Silk Road is this like drug, shady, whatever, black market thing. Like people that are outside of the space, and then you see artwork that's about it, and you're like, well, why is someone like, doing something making art about this shady thing, right? And it's like, well, no, what was it really about? What were they trying to do there? So it's kind of yeah, it's kind of like this pathway to start talking about these things and even what you said, like orange pill and you know Asano, it's interesting what you said before of how, like certain things that define Bitcoin in a way, like change the culture around it, right? It's like, or Sam, you said before that a lot of people appreciate like artists with proof of work. It's not it like I feel that it comes from that. It's like words that we've taken from that or things that we've learned from that, and we're kind of like taking it into our lives, and then the art is different. Um, because it has, not I'm not and I don't think that there is no proof of work in the regular art world. I think there are amazing artists, but I think in this space, it's probably all of them, if or 95%, right? It's like a more encompassing thing about the art or about writing or about just the way people um, look at things because I think also it's like you say like artist and collector or people that have like Bitcoin business. It's like what's valued as well, right? Like the proof of work, the peer to peer, the um, yeah, like all of these things that are innate in how Bitcoin is are kind of like translated into the culture, or at least the culture that we're, maybe it's the people that are trying to bring out these ideas with art or with books or with other things. That's like the values they're talking about, I guess. Maybe that's like a good, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that's a way to maybe look at it?
Absolutely, and I think that there's a lot of authors and a lot of writers that have written a lot of books about Bitcoin, and the act in and of itself of writing about a subject matter is a cultural activity, I think, and then there's an artistic endeavor to conceptualize the same concepts in a artistic format, or in the form of a picture or a painting or a drawing, and that's a cultural activity, and so there's definitely a lot of undeniable cultural activity happening around Bitcoin that's been invaluable to the adoption of Bitcoin and to explaining it to other people. So I couldn't, yeah, I feel like it's a very important and apt part of it. I mean, even the culture around stock markets and of people who are finance financiers, folk, traders, Wall Street people, there's culture around that. And so, but it's a lot of times that culture, like you both have said, isn't as relatable to a lot of I guess, the plebs out there in the world oftentimes. And that's where I think, writing and art and so forth kind of have a special place and convey a special message and convey feelings on the matter that are there's more emotion involved and more, I guess, hope in some ways as opposed to the sort of, you know, I guess the more sterile analytical finance or even technical side of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's important, I think, to have those emotional connections. And I think that, like, as we dissect the word like culture and stuff again, that like I think probably a lot of us share a lot of emotional connections that we may not even like realize, because most of us have come to Bitcoin in some sort of like similar way too, whether that be some sort of financial crisis or some sort of rabbit hole moment, or like everybody's had this, another saying, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve, but everybody has this like enlightening moment with Bitcoin too, where they realize that this could change their life in some way. And that like moment of enlightenment is whether it means something different to Asanoa or to me or to like whatever it happened, we all get to share that one moment where we like get it. And then there's you generally a shift of like once you get it, there is a little bit of socialization process. Like there is that rabbit hole phase where you get hooked on the books and the podcast and like finding your people and listening to the stories and like getting deeper, and then you start to meet up with people, and so there is, even in all of those little subcultures, there's very much like a mind shift that happens, that on like a very emotional human level, that we all get to share and be like, oh, what was that moment for you? And even though it may not be the same, like you get to still relate to that deeply profound shift of mindset.
Well, let's do that. What was that moment for you?
I think that moment for me, honestly, again, was a lot of Clubhouse. I very much like grew up. I mean, not grew up. I'm elder millennial. Like I very tech all the time. All the AOL CDs, growing MySpace. Like so, as Bitcoin came out, naturally I knew what it was. Like I mean, very like tapped into that space, but also understood the culture at the time. Probably, well, I didn't understand like, let's be clear, like there was just still very much on the surface for me. Um, it I don't know, a lot of like just bro type people that I didn't necessarily like want to listen to. Lots of, I don't know, it just seemed very immature in the very beginning to me. So it was really like obviously COVID times happen. That's just a huge like mindset shift culturally for almost all people. Clubhouse again, huge time, spending like hours listening to so many different people from so many different walks of life, from like the finance side of it to people like that are actually using this to like send remittances back home to friends and family. Um, Tonga had a volcano that erupted, and my husband immediately like sprang into action with a bunch of Bitcoiners and developed a plan to parachute radios into a nation. And so, like, just the ability of like all of these people that, if we still break it down to like subcultures of like, yeah, you might be a dev and you might be an artist and you might be, you know, node runner and that's all you care about, there's still like a very strong humanity with those people. And we got like really into Black Bitcoin billionaires at the time, and Naja Roberts, and throwing like camps to teach these kids. And again, Tonga, like they're using Bitcoin to like fund wells for like drinking water, and all of these just strong humanitarian efforts that, to me, like, I just care deeply about people, and that's why I think I'm good at my job. Yes, I love the art, and yes, I love the culture, but I love the people, and I love their stories, and I love what Bitcoin as freedom tech allows them to do and to create and to help one another. And that was it for me. Like hearing that this is something that really drastically changes many people's lives outside of like watching a chart was that was it. Like, and then I was sold. And then of course just naturally have like found people through those all those channels, and people cross paths, and now I'm here.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. And yours, Asanoha?
I'd love to hear more about the parachuting radios into Tonga story sometime.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good one.
I would say it was, when asking this question, it's interesting because it really, I suppose it really was cultural activity that brought me to my final aha moment. Initially, I had been paid for some work in Bitcoin, and I treated it as money, and I spent it basically. And unfortunately, because it was a little while back, and then I was kind of in and out, but I just saw it as, um, I think, yeah, probably similar to a stock of some kind, And I didn't have that aha moment or fully understand it. I just unfortunately didn't research it or study it enough, or like nothing caught me enough to like really pull me in until COVID, I think, which was, a very unfortunate time. And I think I felt for the first time the I don't know, I guess the violence of the state, and I felt it encroach upon my freedoms in my life. And I was making art at the time, and a friend of mine said, "You need to." Who I had actually introduced her to Bitcoin previously, and she had studied it a little bit more than I had, and had found herself on Bitcoin Twitter. And then in 2021, she told me, "You got to take a look at this and check out this artwork they're making, this Bitcoin art." And I hadn't seen any Bitcoin art before that, seen NFTs and stuff, but I hadn't seen like actual real physical, Bitcoin art. And that got me super inspired. So I would say, and then I started reading more Bitcoin material and writing and podcasts, listening to the Sailor series, um, Robert Breedlove, and reading Gigi's articles, and kind of tapped into the art space. And big shout out to Scarce.city for auctioning my first piece of Bitcoin art I ever made. A few of my first pieces of Bitcoin art I ever made, and it was the cultural activity of making art and of writing that really led me to that aha moment. So I would have to contribute my more fully grokking Bitcoin and my aha moment to cultural activities that people were doing in the space 100%. And before that, it really was just a stock of some kind to me. So, and that's interesting now that I think about that, about how I wonder how many people are out there that, kind of like we were saying before, interact with Bitcoin, or they hold some Bitcoin, and what's it take to unlock the full, more deeper understanding. I don't think anybody will ever fully understand Bitcoin, but the more deeper understanding of it, and it seems like it is the cultural activities in the subcultures around Bitcoin that help humans and other people unlock that, and take it, you know, give someone an understanding of it beyond just an investment vehicle.
Yeah, for sure. I really believe that because I think again, depending on where you are in the world and what kind of um, government you're under, although I think the way things are going, we're all heading towards the same kind of thing. So maybe more people will understand it. Um, Hopefully not, but whether they like it or not. But yeah, I think again in these like countries where you have more freedom, I'm gonna say more freedom than others, people have a hard time understanding it, and it is these like meetups, and when you get, it's like what you're saying, Sam, that you meet other people and then people, do these initiatives or just talk about what it means beyond this. Like, my story was also kind of, um, I heard about it in 2017. There was a hack here of like hospitals and the gas company, and it was all over the news that they hacked all the data and they wanted Bitcoin, and it was like, you know what's this Bitcoin thing? Um, and I was on Twitter at the time, but not very active. And I started like looking on Twitter, and what really, really caught my eye wasn't necessarily like the explanation. It was all memes because I started to like I remember listening to a lot of like the Andreas like videos. So he's one of the people that really like orange pilled me, and I think a lot of people. Um, but then Twitter was like, because it was just like the bull market of 2017 that was starting, and it was just memes and memes and memes and memes. And I don't come from like I don't come from like internet culture that much. I was an artist before, but I wasn't using social media that much, and it just shocked me like how you can talk about an idea that's so profound in such a like you know with memes, with just like, funny, um, and how it spreads, right? How, you know, how through laughter or through stupid things, like ideas spread, right? So I also think that's like a big part of Bitcoin culture, or I don't know if it just connects to like internet culture, in that place, that it also helps, like spread that idea. Um, yeah. Do you have like any people in this space that were, that were more, that helped orange pill you, or was it more people around you? Like just a question to both of you. If there's people in this space, like writers or artists, or just
Yeah,
I Go
you
ahead.
go, Sam.
Personally, I am not a big podcaster. I am not a I didn't actually listen to a lot of talks. Um, I don't want to just sit here and like claim that Clubhouse was the best all the time, but I am like totally a Clubhouse like promoter at this point. But it was actually just a ton of real people, to be honest. Lamar Jackson, or not Lamar Jackson, Lamar Wilson was the founder of Black Bitcoin Billionaires at the time, and just created a space where like all of these like just regular thought leaders again that were not even thought leader, like just people working on projects again, like my friend Courtney, she goes to Africa and they build wells with Bitcoin in Togo. And that is, they have built multiple wells over the last few years. And she's just a regular person. And I would have just never, I mean, yes, maybe I would have met her at some point in my life, but there was just this large concentration of people that just wanted to tell their story and like what they were doing. And so, that led to me meeting Brad Mills, and then Brad starting projects, and then, doing art and stuff through there. And so there's just kind of like everybody kind of starts to kind of know each other, and there's a web of people. But I and then of course it would, yes, like art wise, artists, crypto graffiti again, huge clubhouser, like he would just be sitting there like working on his projects and talking through projects. Becca and Rob started Anchor Watch on Clubhouse, like with all of us just listening to like what the problems were and what the insurance was, and like all of these different things that were just like people doing things. And it's just very clear that like you can just do things. Like you can like have an idea and you can just do it, and there's people out there that will support you with it or help you think through things, and not everything has to be as cutthroat. So for me personally, it wasn't a big talking head. It was just normal people that now I tend to like geek out over, like when meeting at conferences, that like they probably played a bigger role in my life than they
yeah.
know, and they're just regular. It's just Asanoha hanging out at conference, and it's like, oh, that guy was like like an actual artist, like he is an artist. And but yeah, it's just regular people and the accessibility to like hearing all of these incredible stories that Bitcoin enables.
Nice.
Yeah, I would say very similar. It's interesting. I feel like Bitcoin Clubhouse was for a lot of us. It was Bitcoin Twitter, and then there was. I wonder what the like. I wonder there's going to be now probably a batch of people that are like Bitcoin Noster. My friend introduced me to Bitcoin Noster, and
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun hearing you talk about Clubhouse, Sam. I've never been on Clubhouse one time, so I'm like, it's a whole nother world. But definitely, Bitcoin Twitter um, was, I think, for I'll call myself class of 21 because that's when I really kind of got into Bitcoin. Although I had been introduced to it a bit before that. Yeah, I mean, the other plebs and just other people in the space just doing things. I definitely have some people that I'll shout out, like Dear Gigi, um, Robert Breedlove, Alex van der Svetsky, Knut Svanholm. Uh, there was a handful of people and articles that I read, and there was some podcasts. I never did. Oh, I don't know if I've ever been the 40 HPW, 40 hours per week podcaster, but or listener, but I'm trying to be a 40 HPW podcaster now. No, I but some of the articles out there, there's Bitcoiners Are the Remnant by Alexander Svetsky, and then there's the Tyranny of Time Scarcity. Called something like that. That's by Robert Breedlove. It's just an article on Medium. And then, of course, like Bitcoin is Time and some other written pieces by Dear Gigi. And then that were very, very pivotal to my understanding Bitcoin and to fully orange pilling me, to really throwing me down the rabbit hole. And there was, some of Ioni Appelberg, Guy Swan, and Knut Svanholm's videos were pretty, I would say, influential for me. So yeah, but I think the art, most of all, it gave me. I'm not a coder or a trader or I've never been I'm technically inclined, but I don't. I wouldn't say that I was a heavy internet culture, participant. So for me, finding a way to interact and be part of Bitcoin, the art was just monumental for that, and was just it gave me a way to interact and be part of Bitcoin and help push Bitcoin adoption, and it gave me a home in Bitcoin as a more creative type. And so that was, most influential of all was all the artists, um, many of which Scarce.city has, held auctions for. And it was a way for me, a reason for me to go to conferences and participate in the art gallery, which often Scarce.city is the one hosting at most of the conferences out there. So that's been, then I think a big, big shout out to Scarce.city for.
Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah.
scarcity is
Yeah.
one of the big yeah, it's one of the probably one of the biggest promoters and enablers of art, of Bitcoin art and artists. Um, yeah, I remember when it started and like the first auctions and um, yeah, it was like yeah, for sure a place that let a lot of artists continue doing this um, for years now, probably. Sam, do you want to tell us like what's the pivot in scarcity, the new line?
Yeah, so I mean, for the longest time, our focus has been Bitcoin art and collectibles. That's been our tagline. Um, Keeping on that same thing, just expanding a little bit. Kind of the same thing that talking about here. Like, there's a lot of people that use Bitcoin for freedom tech, for being a freedom fighter of some sort, of some cause. So we're just broadening a little bit. And, we just finished a John McAfee collection. So just kind of trying to make sure that we again still recognize that Bitcoin is a tool. And yes, there is a strong presence of Bitcoin art, but that Bitcoin art can mean a lot of things to other people, whether that is, paintings, sculptures, we've done book launches, meme artifacts, all sorts of things that have had a little bit of a broader reach than just an artist selling art for Bitcoin. So again, we just want to focus on, you know, with we did with Ross last year. Again, John McAfee. We've had the Charlie Shrimp collection. We've had like these figures that have played some role in the history of these great ideas, these self sovereignty, freedom, privacy, and many of them have used Bitcoin as some form of tool to enable their lives in some way. And we just want to be able to make sure that those things are still highlighted. We've now got the Freedom Funds counter on the website that actually shows how much of these auctions have been donated to places like Human Rights Foundation or the Hal Finney Foundation, ALS, like all of these different things that Bitcoiners themselves find worthy to care about. We want to be able to support them in their missions.
And how is that? Are you gonna do like more collections or um like what's the idea? Like how's that happening?
So right now, just honestly opening up conversations, having a lot more ability of like a, a little bit of just a broader curatorial process, and really pushing any of those charity things that we can find. Right now, really focusing on getting a collection together for the Samurai Devs. Finding just keeping a pulse on again those stories that might be out there that we don't realize because it's not what's popular on Twitter at the moment. Of other things that might be going on or violations that might be happening in people's lives or you know all sorts of things, and we don't want to get too political or any sort of what freedom means to a specific person or group, because as you've said, there's many people that have a varying different the spectrum of freedom is different for many people. um,
Oh,
but Bitcoin allows that to be a level playing field for a lot of people. So, and then right now, it's also just focusing on the fact that we now also are having that Freedom Fund counter. Anybody that chooses to auction with us has the ability on their submission form to automatically donate a percentage of whatever they want to whoever they want. And that'll automatically go into our counter there as well, whatever that charity or fund may be.
I think that's really wonderful. This kind of I feel like you guys have always been like you said, like you've already been doing that in many ways at times, and opening it up more now intentionally, I think is a fantastic idea. I think it's a great idea for Bitcoin adoption, and then also for the Bitcoin art space and adoption of the Bitcoin art space is broadening that a bit because there's a lot of people out there that might, a John McAfee collection might catch their attention, and kind of bring them over to Scarce City, and and then they kind of maybe get their eyes on another collection that some artists are doing. So I think that's I feel like we're pretty echo chamber siloed. Seems to happen quite often in the Bitcoin space. It's probably because of the concept and the understanding of Bitcoin it isn't an easy process to truly understand Bitcoin. There's quite a like catharsis one must go through of accepting, understanding, realizing, understanding, and accepting that like so much of what we've been told and been taught in life is just an outright lie and or is very malevolent and actually sinister. And so it's difficult, I think, for a lot of people to accept that. And so I wonder if that contributes to it. I guess that's kind of a side tangent, but Bitcoin and Bitcoin art and movements and subcultures within Bitcoin getting siloed or echo chamber or becoming an echo chamber. And so I think what you guys are doing is really awesome, opening that up more and is good for humanity, you know. So I love that you have the integration there to direct funds to good causes.
Yeah, for sure, and putting these people, talking about what they're doing, and um, because I think in general, people are getting more and more afraid to speak up and to go, against everything that's happening, and I think by saying no, we're going to give a platform to the people who are risking their lives. Even and they shouldn't be, right? That it's not just and it's not okay, and it's to say something about what's happening, um, what's happening in the world, and how and how Bitcoin can, that there's that Bitcoin fixes this, or and I don't think Bitcoin is going to fix all the problems of the world. I think that's, we're humans are always going to have some problems, a lot probably, but it does fix a lot of other things. So yeah, so I think it's really important to highlight the people that are, um, yeah, the samurai devs, or the people that are really fighting and getting, like, I think everyone is fighting in a way, right? Like, just making art, just having Bitcoin in the end is part of that. Um, but yeah, there's people who are like paying a price, I'm gonna say, not fighting. Yeah, so Asano, you want to tell us like the Bitcoin art magazine a little bit? Like, what's your plans with that, and
Yeah,
how
and
you
I
about it?
yeah, absolutely. Sam, I wanted to ask, will you give us the details on the Samurai Devs auction that you're doing? I think Chris actually reached out to me, and I'm gonna, it looks like possibly help with some shirt designs here. But will you give us the down low on what the whole plan is? I think it's a bit more
Yeah.
room.
I can give you a little high level plan. Works are still coming out, but yeah. Goal is BitBlock Boom. It's going to be a prime time. It's great conference, high signal, and trying to see if we can, make a statement there with all of the artists. We are in talks with the families and stuff too, just to make sure that everything is respectful and just again, that human element that I like to focus on. But all we're doing, we're just asking artists that would like to participate. Again, you'll be able to just use that freedom counter that we've got. We're just asking you to donate any percentage of your artwork. Percent, it's completely up to you whether that is 5%, whether that's 95%. Anything that is donated is all going directly to them. And so we're going to kind of keep it pretty broad. It doesn't have to be necessarily samurai themed artworks. We're just asking that if you want to participate, that you donate a percentage of that to them. And so hopefully we'll be able to send them some nice funds. Obviously they've got legal defense and like the list keeps going on and on. You got two families that are pretty shaken up right now. So anything that we can do, again, where I talk about that, yeah, yes, you might have subcultures from all over the place, but I think one thing that kind of always kind of brings us back together is they you are still like very human at heart, and people still want to be like, oh man, that could be me, like that could be me at any point with my art or with my coding or with
Yeah.
anything that I'm saying. um, we're all just like, it seems sometimes we're all just very close to being a next target. And so I think that there is a lot of bravery in being able to say your opinions and stick with your convictions. So we're going to try and support them doing that.
That's awesome. I'm really excited, and I'm envisioning it being very successful, this auction and other ones to come after this. And I absolutely love the yeah, I love that. I feel like that's also really great just for collectors and bidders. And I know it feels good when part of the funds of something are going towards a good cause. And so I couldn't agree. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As far as all the samurai stuff, make of
Yeah.
it from whatever angle that you will. The bottom line is, you know, it's we're I think Yonat said it earlier. We're all living under some tyranny of some sort, the planet over, just varying degrees and in different ways. So,
You want to tell us about your about the magazine?
yeah, we called it Bitcoin Art Magazine because that was the most obvious thing. And I have had thoughts though of at some point potentially maybe I don't know about maybe rebranding or maybe just opening it up a bit more to more freedom, Bitcoin aligned subject matter and artworks, um, all sharing, themes of sovereignty and so forth. But maybe that at some point we'll see with the magazine, kind of similar to what Scarce.city is doing right now, and opening it up to, artwork that's complementary to the values and at least our values of what Bitcoin is. So
Yeah.
currently, we're just focusing on physical Bitcoin artwork, uh, really an emphasis on physical. I think maybe we'll do, digital is maybe we will feature digital artwork at some point. There's definitely a lot of artwork that's digitally assisted, but we are going to do we're pretty strong in our conviction to not platform NFTs and to not platform obviously any shit coins or anything that would be antithetical to Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is. So currently just focusing on physical and also no AI. So, I don't want to say we'll never feature anything that's made with AI because there is some beautiful AI creations out there, but for the most part it's just absolute slop and I have no desire to interact, engage, or try and curate or sift through it in any way whatsoever. And there's I don't know. I appreciate the humanity of physical artwork, and so that's what we're focusing on, and probably will always be our main focus. I don't, I will be featuring some, I think, films, other books. I don't want to just silo it to quote unquote physical fine art. I think
Yeah.
that there's
Visual art.
visual art, there's street art out there, there's good projects happening in other places, in much lesser privileged places. Um, so, we want to include some of that as well. And, there's yeah, so we'll see. Right now, it's all for the most part physical art. We've got in the current Genesis edition, we've got an article by Dustin Watchman who did some street art in the Philippines after the hurricane there. Um,
Okay, cool.
talking about that volcano eruption, Sam, I think you said in Tonga, made me think of Dustin's time out in the Philippines, but a great article on him out there and just helping them rebuild and spreading Bitcoin adoption. Got a bunch of local stores to accept Bitcoin and did some Bitcoin murals. We have an article about or from Philip Charter about his experience at Bitcoin Film Fest 25. We have a short story from Delio Opera, um, and yeah, so including including anything artistic or creative that's currently directly themed around Bitcoin. And yeah, in the near future, maybe we will include some artworks that we feel like are aligned, but maybe that aren't entirely Bitcoin centric. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, well, like,
Go on.
I think no, I think there's a lot of, like, artworks that, that speak about freedom and liberty and what that means, or kind of like all kinds of things that are connected to Bitcoin. They're not specifically about it, but I think there's such a broad, you know, base of things you can talk about. And art is like, books are art and music is art and art, yeah, I think you can take it to so many places. For
Absolutely.
sure.
So it's very exciting. It's been it's been stressful. It's a
Yeah, for
whole heck of a lot more
sure.
than I thought it would be. But it's a labor of love, and it's been good. The magazine's out. We have the base magazine or the standard issue, which is limited edition of 1720. We decided to just cap it. That's what we did on our first print run, and we're just going to cap it at that. We may print more of the standard issue edition that we do in the future. I don't want to box ourselves in and leave us room to grow if there's the demand. And then we have a gold foil cover edition that's limited edition of 210. It's same as the Genesis edition standard issue, but it's got gold foil text and title and gold foil on the artwork on the back, which is just black on black on the, I don't know if you can see that there, on the Genesis edition 1720. So those are available on the website. And then I'm working on the books right now. We have two editions of books. They're both hardcover fine art books. The one is a limited edition of 121, and the other is a patrons edition of 21. The patrons edition is actually sold out. Huge shout out to all of our patrons and to everybody who's ordered a magazine. And we're
That's
not sure
amazing.
yet if we're gonna do the same 4 options for edition 1, but I think we will. I kinda like it because it gives a price point for everybody. If you're just a pleb who, maybe you don't have a lot of money to spend on art or, I guess, you're not super into collecting art or collectibles, then just grab one of the standard copies. They're still limited, and so they're still a collectible, but it's at an affordable price point. And then if you're if you're well off and you want to support the project or you're a big collector, grab one of our patrons editions or somewhere in between. So currently that's kind of the idea here. You're definitely, Sam, inspiring me to think of what sort of, maybe it might be cool to donate some percentage of funds to a good cause of all of our sales or something. So I'm gonna have to talk to the team and think about that. But you're inspiring me with what you guys are doing over at Scarce.city right now.
Well, I just got to shout your magazines out just a little bit more, and I know Yonat did at the beginning as well. But like even it's hard to describe and it's hard to like show in pictures like how great of a quality of magazine it really is. It like my kids even said it has new book smell. Like it's not a magazine that you're just going to find at, a Barnes and Noble rack. Like this is a very high quality, it's very thick. It like the pages, like I feel like I own all of these pieces of artwork, even owning just like a small magazine. So even what you're saying is like the base model is a extremely amazing piece of work. So you did phenomenal on this.
Thank you. I gotta shout out my team, and shout out to Annabelle Baza, who helped me do the final polish and helped me with the final print on the magazine here. So it's yeah, it makes me really happy to hear that, and that's what I was going for. I wasn't sure if we were gonna hit it, but it sounds like we have. So I think it's more of an art. The idea is it's more of an art. We called it Bitcoin Art Magazine because that was just the most obvious thing for explaining it to people. It needed as little explanation as possible. That is exactly what it is. But it's really more of like an art journal, I feel like, and that is my intention moving forward, to keep it even the standard base issue, or like the main run issue, to keep it just as high quality as possible. I'm not a fan of stuff. And so anything that I own, I want, I like it to be of nice quality if I'm gonna spend my sats on it, or take the time to have the stuff in my life. We collect things so quickly in these human experiences, and I don't, nobody needs a bunch of, nobody needs extra junk. So something that you can, keep on your coffee table or put in your bookshelf, and if you move or something, you want to take it with you because it's nice.
Now I wanna get mine. It
Have you
still
not?
hasn't arrived. No, well, I think it's no, it still hasn't arrived, but
Okay, because I'm pretty sure I sent yours.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you did. I think I got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sweet. I
I
want to
will.
shout out
Yeah.
Yonat. If anybody's listening to this and you don't know who Yonat is, go to yonatvaks.com. That's Yonat, YONATVAKS. That's VAKS.com, yonatvaks.com, and check out Yonat's
Mhm.
artwork. Yonat is it a multimedia artist, but Yonat's oil paintings are really special, and we feature Yonat in the Genesis edition of Bitcoin Art Magazine, of course. And so definitely go check out Yonat's work. So
Thank you.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, both of you, for being here. It was really fun. And yeah, I hope to do, well, not hope. You're invited to more episodes, both of you. This is going to be like each time just talking to different artists, people in the space, writers, thinkers, and just talk about different parts of like Bitcoin art and culture. Um, yeah. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you do. And is there anything else you feel like saying that you haven't said?
Oh, thanks for hosting. Thanks for just opening the conversation. I think it's important to continue talking about it, especially in, you know, whatever market it is. Like, pick an animal at this point. Like, I don't know, but yeah, I think it's important to just keep on having these conversations with each other, and you never know what like this conversation sparks in somebody else, and that's how we keep that culture going, and we keep new artists. Like, you never know who's going to be like, oh yeah, I have something that I have used Bitcoin for that I didn't think was actually Bitcoin art, but you know what? Maybe it is. And it's allowed me to be more free in some way. And I need to share my story with somebody. And we're here to help tell it.
Yes.
Real Bitcoiners are always in a honey badger market because we don't give a fuck what the price is doing.
I
uh,
love bear markets much more, to be honest. Like they're like that's when you see people. That's when people build. That's when people, you know, there's no noise. There's no like price is going up noise. It's just like the real. That's how I feel. Like it's like the real. It's a time people build and concentrate, and there's real conversation. So I think it's a good time to start these conversations.
Yeah, and it's somebody posted on Twitter. I can't remember who it was. Just I think I saw it yesterday, but just a chart of the every 4-year cycle or every year cycle, the lows of Bitcoin, and we're like, this is what this is what you measure Bitcoin price by, and I just thought that was so cool, and it's a ascending chart of numbers at the low
Yeah.
of each year or of each cycle. And I'm like, that's just so perfect of a way to explain it to people or to show to people or to think about it in, it's not the, you know, parabolic hyped up top. What we're watching. We're watching what is the low of every year, every cycle, and that's
Yeah.
the real progression of what the value of Bitcoin is. And so don't get caught up in the price action. I no, thank you, Yonat, for putting this together. I'm really excited to do more of these. I think it's really important us sitting here talking, hanging out. There's no other space. There's no other currently that I know of audio platform or channel doing what we're doing right now. So there's a whole lot to talk about. A whole lot of
We talk about the fun stuff.
yeah. But for a lot of people, I think this is the signal, and this is you know this is important for us to be doing for Bitcoin and for the Bitcoin art space. So thank you.
All right. Okay. So thank you all for joining, and we will see you next time.
Peace out, you guys.
Bye.